And we're recording. All right. Welcome all. Thank you so much for joining the January NCPEID APE Collaborative. We've got an exciting session today. Our focus today is going to be on OSEP, Office of Special Education Programs. They have different types of federal grants. And we're going to take multi-perspectives here. So the first segment of our panel, we have some adapted physical education scholars. Now, these scholars might be working on their credential, their master's, or their doctorate, depending on the type of grant that they're funded for. And then the second half of the panel, we're going to ask a few questions um, to our directors. So the directors of the grants, those who are at the university level overseeing these OSEP programs. So in the chat, if you would you introduce yourself and say, are you a scholar on the OSEP grant? Are you a project director? If you're a scholar, what university are you from? And are you pursuing your doctorate, your master's, or your credential? Okay, so to begin, these questions are for the scholars, and I do know a few project directors weren't able to have any of their scholars join, and so they have some scholar responses that they're going to share, and that's great too. Just so that their university is represented, and that's great. So the first question that we have for the scholars, and scholars, this is a free response for you to answer. And when you answer, could you please say like your name, what university you're from, and then what are are you seeking your credential, your master's, or your doctorate through your OSEP program? Okay, the first one is tell us about the different PK through 12 experiences that you've had through your OSEP funded program. Okay, Paul, I'm going to call on you first because you're my scholar. So tell us about PK through 12 experiences.
Okay. I am currently a graduate student at Cal State Long Beach and currently teaching full-time at a school district in Southern California. Some of my PK through 12 experiences, uh, teaching and servicing students in that age range. Currently, right, and last year too was our summer program at Cal State Long Beach through Camp Nugget. So that's a summer program teaching physical activity for students with disabilities during the summertime, doing adaptive games and bringing uh, typical age students and doing inclusive games and other parts, other experiences was through our like backroom conference. We were able to do like community outreach and able to visit local schools and like learning about different cultures and culturally responsive pedagogy. So those are some of the experiences that I had through the OSEP program at Long Beach.
Great. Thanks for sharing, Paul. What about some other scholars? What are some PK through 12 experiences that you all have?
I can go next.
Thanks, Eddie.
So obviously I did my undergrad at Long Beach State, but now that I'm at Georgia pursuing my PhD, it's more just helping our pre-service teachers get that experience. So one of the ways we do it here is kind of like Paul mentioned about Camp Nugget. It's called Swim and Gym. So we have our after school, it's kind of like our after school program. It happens on Tuesday nights. Community members come from the Athens, Clark County area and they bring students with disabilities. We actually have a partnership with the school district that buses students to our facility. And from 6:15 to about 7:45. So the first 45 minutes are in the gym, and then the next 35 to 40 minutes are in the pool. And then we dress them back out and they go. But the students are aged, I would say, as young as 4 to as old as I want to say about 15. So pre-K through almost 12. We're getting in the middle school coming to high school age, but they get that practical experience of working with someone with a disability.
Great. Thanks, Eddie. Thanks for sharing. Any other scholars want to talk about your PK through 12 experiences out in the field? I'll add one more thing. I know that here at Long Beach State, we really try to make sure that we get a wide variety of experiences. So we have this like whole laundry list of like things that you need to see before you leave the program. Help me fill in, Paul, if I miss things, but you have to go see preschool. You have to see transition program. You have to see like unified PE. You have to see visual impairment. You have to see students with significant support needs. You have to see assessment. You have to sit in on IEP meetings. Like we have this whole checklist of all the things that you have to do before you leave the program. In addition, because our services vary so different from school to school and individual to individual, we actually rotate every month with who our scholars are going to see out in the field. So they get a wide variety of teachers that they're observing. So they're with that teacher for their mentor teacher for 4 weeks. For 3 weeks, they help on, they're observing, they're hands-on paraprofessional assistants. And then that fourth week, they step up and then they lead, teach lessons. So that's some ways that we guarantee that the students see a wide variety of different service delivery options. Paul, did I miss anything off of our checklist of different types of placements and students that we need to see?
No, I think you did a good job of including all. And the one that you were mentioning, the best in the business, I think it's really good to see different teachers so that students are not like locked into thinking that APE is just done like this in one district, and that it gives us a chance to look at how APE is done in different ways so that we get a wide variety of experiences in the field.
Right. I mean, it's really challenging that we have 13 different disabilities, 3 to 21 years of age. I mean, you really have to be able to switch your hat in that one aspect. You might be at a school teaching, 3, 4-year-old preschoolers, and then all of a sudden go down the street to another school and you have transition students who are, 20 years of age. So it really does take a wide variety of experiences and know-how to service what we do. Any
Melissa,
other? Oh, yeah, go ahead, Garth.
Melissa, do you have like a planned activity for your scholars where they're interacting or collaborating with like a physical therapist, like in a motor team kind of model?
We do a lot of collaboration, for sure we do a lot with speech language pathology. That's kind of a big one we collaborate with. But yeah, we make sure that they get motor team experiences, especially at the preschool or early elementary level, because that's whom you're probably spending a lot of time with, assessing and yeah, having those experiences. So yeah, that's another great add-on, Garth, is that you have collaboration and consultation, getting the experience consulting with a general PE teacher, because that is also a unique skill set in itself, that you have this general PE teacher who's been in the district for 30 years and that you're trying to, freshly new minted APE teacher, fresh off the docket. Now I am trying to go, give some tips and advice to this teacher, who's been at that school and, as Barry LeVay says, has socks older than I am. And so that's a skill set as well that we work on, with our scholars, is, tips for collaboration. Yeah, thanks, Garth. Any other project directors or scholars want to chime in on PK through 12 experiences?
I think one of the additional ways, and this is not, I'll say this on behalf of my scholars, many of them are teaching on interim teaching certificates, so sort of an emergency certificate where they have a certain number of years that they can teach before they get the certification. So the additional opportunities outside of their school are afforded to them on campus practicums, which I know we'll be talking about, but also through different service learning projects. One in particular is our strong relationship with Special Olympics Michigan, where we will take the whole cohort to go up and to look at a comprehensive health screening and the administration of a lot of different health measures that I think, particularly with the older, with transition school-age children, is really, really helpful for them to get familiar with some best practices in administration of health screenings.
Ooh, I love that. What a great opportunity. And perfect segue. Let's now talk about the on-campus practicums and experiences. So, what are some of these on-campus practicums that you all have experienced? So, let's hear it, scholars.
I wanted to share one. So right now I'm a graduate TA here at University of Georgia. I have some students. I'm teaching a course, a practicum where the students want to be PTs, PAs, or OTs. So we have a lot of adults with physical disabilities and other like geriatric population that come in, and they develop training plans for them and they execute them in the lab session throughout the week.
Great. Nice experience. Thank you for sharing. Scholars, what are some other experiences on campus practicums?
For me, one of my duties is to review lessons and give feedback for current Gen Ed P teachers who are looking to get their added authorization. And it's been a great experience to give feedback on how they can make PE a little bit more fun and inclusive. Because in the beginning of the semester, they have lessons that are very like Gen PE, like teacher, like command style, and to give feedback to give them more ideas on how to make to look at it from more of a lens of APE and how to make it more inclusive and giving them the ideas. So that's one practicum that was really rewarding to see some of the growth and working back and forth with current PE teachers on some of the strategies and different resources that will make PE more inclusive for everyone.
Great. Thanks for sharing, Paul. Any other scholars want to share about your other on-campus practicums?
I'll share on behalf of Anna, Nancy, and Alyssa, who answered some questions and then submitted them to me. They each remarked in their own way how helpful it was for all the scholars to be present during the on-campus practicums at once. It allowed them to both sort of share in their, I guess, joys and maybe in some of the pitfalls of what's actually happening in real time in their school settings, but then also in during that on-campus practicum, having access to APE experts and doctoral students in APE allow them to sort of have an opportunity to problem solve real time and have access to sort of the best practices in instruction and material, course and coursework.
Love that. I agree that we always try to set up our scholars same in like pairs or in groups of three, which helps, with their reflection as well. Here, like at Long Beach State, we have a lot of on-campus practicums. We have a unified soccer program in collaboration with Long Beach Unified School District. We do a transition practicum with individuals 18 to 21 years of age. College Promise, where we have general PE fifth graders come to the university. We provide PE to them on Fridays. We do an after-school program for individuals with disabilities. Camp Nugget, of course, our summer camp. We're initiating a camp abilities for visual impairment. So we're working with Lauren Lieberman to get that off the ground and initiate that in the spring. We do an archery for all abilities. We do wheelchair basketball. So those are just some of the on-campus practicums that we have, particularly for individuals with disabilities.
One of the things that's periodically done here at the University of Wisconsin La Crosse for the graduate level scholars is with parent permission. Parents will bring in their actual IEPs from their kids so that the scholars can take a look at various school districts formats and the physical education information that's on the IEPs. Because many of the scholars have not been out teaching in schools yet, and gives them a good opportunity to see a variety of school districts and how different districts list that specially designed instruction in physical education or adapted physical education on the IEPs, and they've really enjoyed that.
Oh, I love that. That is a great idea. Because
Mhm.
you're right. When we teach writing an IEP or a student assessment report, we kind of have a universal template, is what we call it, but super emphasize every school district you go to is going to be slightly different. And that is a challenge at a university level to
Mhm.
get students to understand that we're going to try to get you a template that's, 95% of wherever you go, it's going to be like this, but each district is a little bit different. So that's really nice to see. That's a good idea. Yeah, for them to see how it does vary from district to district. Hey, Garth, I know do you still do at lacrosse, do you still do the summer bike program?
Yeah, yep. There's a biking camp every summer in early June, where kids are actually taught, progressively taught to ride a two-wheel bicycle, and a lot of various modified bicycles, tricycles, etc. And it's really worked out quite well. They do it in the morning. They have about a 90-minute session with one group of approximately 10 children. And it's all one-on-one with a college student. Then they take about a half-hour break, and then they bring in another group of kids. And then what they do, which I think is probably one of the best parts of it, they have a situation set up where those, let's say 15 to 20 kids between the ages of, let's say, 7 to 18, all summer after that June camp for about 8 or 9 weeks, twice a week during the summer, the college student is also working with that child to reinforce the skills. Because, very rarely will a youngster learn how to ride that two-wheel bike in 1 week, but yet over the summer with several reinforcing sessions, there's some great success stories.
I love that. That is fantastic. Okay, scholars, next, let's hear about some sport experiences that you all have had through your OSEP grant opportunities.
Here in Georgia, we actually have so in the fall we get to. I'll speak about one, Lorena. You can talk about the one that's coming up. So in the fall, we actually had our wheelchair sports day. So we have a day where students from Houston County come. It's probably like the oldest organization and the oldest like wheelchair sports team here in Georgia. They come up on campus and they work with our undergrads and our graduate students on like a day where they started off with wheelchair handball and they taught us the rules and they teach us the basics. Then they same thing with football and basketball. So they taught us all three sports, kind of got a little bit of gameplay, and it's really cool to see the undergrads kind of like start off all like they just are super competitive and they get humbled really quickly and they realize that these athletes are real athletes. And also it provides an opportunity for like us to be a platform and be like, hey, there's a whole organization that if you guys get out in the schools, they will provide wheelchairs, they will provide everything for you to have a program at your school or in your school district.
Right, Lorena, you also had another program to add?
Yeah, let me see if this is clear. So we have an upcoming one this spring semester, which is kind of similar to like the wheelchair one, but it's more for like VI sports. So we are gonna teach like a goal ball, blind soccer, and other visual impairment sports. It's really our first semester doing this, so Dr. Kirk hasn't really told us much about what our responsibilities are gonna be, I think, but it's kind of like a similar experience as well, where it's open to graduate students and undergraduate students as well.
Okay, great. Oh, and I see Dr. Kirk's popping on. She just missed all about the the sport programs at Georgia. Any other scholars would like to share about sport programs? Dr. Kirk, you be proud. Your doctoral scholars just shared all about the great sports experiences they had at are having at Georgia. Welcome. S Scholars, let's now talk about
Hey,
conferences
Melissa,
or
can
oh
I
yeah,
just
go
add
ahead.
something?
Of
Yeah, I just
course.
want to add something about the adapted sports situation. Here at the University of Wisconsin La Crosse, the graduate level scholars and all the undergraduate adapted PE majors are very lucky that the area adapted physical education and special education teachers in about 5 or 6 area school districts actually have formed over the past 8 to 10 years. There's an adapted sport league that is a school-sponsored interscholastic sport program. And they have 3 full seasons. They have fall soccer, winter floor hockey, spring baseball, and the kids earn letters and everything. It's a high school interscholastic sport program. So our scholars get an opportunity to observe and interact in that program. And some of our scholars have gone on and graduated and started programs elsewhere in the state in school districts. And so it's an actual school-sponsored interscholastic sport program. The kids earn letters. They are, have uniforms. They have coaches who are paid, et cetera. And it's an outstanding opportunity for the scholars to see that and then replicate that in school districts in the future.
Love that on so many levels. Number one, scholars remember that clarification letter of 504, the Rehabilitation Act, that individuals with disabilities absolutely have the right to participate in interscholastic athletics at their schools. And whom better to be coaches and start programs such as that as us in APE because we have that background and knowledge. So great. Love that. Great experience. Thanks, Garth. Next, let's transition and talk about conferences or workshops. What type of experiences have you had attending conferences or workshops through your OSEP program?
Okay, I'll go. So we last semester, Lorraine and I got to attend the North American Federation of Adaptive Physical Activity Conference in Ithaca, New York, thanks to our OSEP scholarship. And then this spring we'll be going to Shape in Baltimore, Maryland. And then Lorena, I think you can speak more on are you actually getting to present at the conference as well?
See if it works. Yeah. So at the NOFAPA conference, I presented one of my student works in progress. So that was a great experience for me now on the future projects that I'm gonna be building on. I do want to say when I did my master's at Chico State, I also went to a lot of the Capered and APEC conferences, but we also traveled to Italy and also the United Arab Emirates, and we kind of helped out some teachers over there. So it just like helps you makes connections with other individuals from different countries as well too.
Love that. Great experience. That was definitely I'm sure a Rebecca Lytle connection because you can't use your OSEP funds on international travel.
Yeah.
But love that. What a cool experience.
I'll answer on behalf of Anna. Um, so this past year, all 9 of our scholars went to Shape, Michigan. The abstract deadline was before scholars were actually admitted to a program. So this year we went just to present and to represent our school. But she noted this scholarship has helped me go to a conference in Shape, Michigan. It helped me learn about different ways to include students in adaptive field days, different equipment, how to grow your adapted PE program, advocacy, and so much more. I would never have gone to this conference without the scholarship. And now after going, I want to go back every year on my own dime. It was so beneficial, and we were able to meet so many other PE teachers and connect.
Yes, that's exactly what we do. We want to get them in early. And so they want to go again and again and realize how important it is to, network and continuously be a learner. Love that. Good job, Anna. Any other
Uh,
scholars? Oh, go ahead.
okay.
Or Garth.
So
Or project directors.
one of the things that we do at La Crosse is we require the graduate scholars to do a presentation at the Wisconsin Health and Physical Education Conference. And we kind of set it up where the faculty members actually submit the presentation proposals because you've got to do that so far in advance. And then what we do is we break up the scholars into teams, and they actually develop, organize, and present the actual sessions at the state conference. We're also lucky enough to be right on the border with Minnesota, which has wonderful adaptive physical education programs, and they have a state conference each year in adaptive PE. So we're only 3 hours from that conference, and every year our scholars attend that Minnesota Adapted Physical Education Conference also.
That sounds very familiar. Paul, why don't you? We also have that requirement that scholars have to present. Paul, why don't you talk about your experience presenting?
Yeah, so I got the chance to do my capstone project and present at the CAFER conference in Garden Grove last year in 2024 with Dr. Bittner, Dr. LeVay, and Dr. Young. And it was my first time presenting, and it kind of gave me the confidence to uh, present and do like put myself in more uncomfortable situations and really go out of my comfort zone. And it really helped me to, uh, yeah, and that kind of led me to applying for different positions. And now I'm at, because I was working at charter schools in LA area before, but now I am at a school district. So I think that was a good like stepping stone, a little bit of a confidence booster to put myself, uh, yeah, and challenge myself. And another conference that I was able to attend through the OSEP program was the PACRIM conference in Hawaii, and it was just an awesome experience to learn about the culture of Hawaii and get to attend the conference and also present and how and one of our topic was to integrate uh, different aspects of academics. So I did my presentation on using like number sense and like using addition uh, through physical activity. So that was a great experience. And I know we talked about, uh, building friendships and connecting with other AP teachers. And it was just an awesome opportunity to go to the conference and make lifelong relationships with the fellow OSEP scholars at Long Beach State. So that was awesome. And thank you to all the our professors and the OSEP Scholar Program for making it happen. I really enjoyed it and want to go again this year.
Thank goodness
Thank
that's not international travel, right, Melissa?
No, it's not the 50th state. But it was great. Our scholars at Long Beach State got to meet up with Ali's scholars at University of Hawaii Manoa, and so that was some really neat collaboration that we got to, engage in. We did an access surf event where we helped individuals with disabilities learn how to surf. Another great aspect with the OSEP grant, I know that we do at Long Beach State, is we do workshops each semester and we bring in often teachers of the year. So we had last year, we brought in Chris Aarons he's the now APE teacher of the year for California, but he's down in San Diego. We brought in this past fall Matt Barker, who APE Eastern District Teacher of the Year. For this year, he's in Fairfax, Virginia. So these have been great opportunities for amazing teachers to come in and share their knowledge. All right. Any other program directors or scholars want to chat about conferences or workshops? All right, now let's move on to advocacy or leadership opportunities. What type of advocacy or leadership opportunities have you had because of OSEP? Hey, Paul, why don't you share about the APEN study group?
So I had the opportunity to host the APEN's study group for the CAPE certification test. And I think it was really good opportunity for me to really study the material myself so that I wasn't hosting without really covering the material. And because of that, like leadership uh, kind of duties, I was able to pass the CAPE uh, test recently. So I am a newly minted CAPE. So
Yay.
think that put me in a good position to really study the materials so that I can foster good conversations. And you can't really talk and lead a group if you don't know what you're talking about. So I think that that leadership opportunity really gave me the courage to yeah to put myself out there, and I'm really grateful for it that I got to pass my first try.
Right on. And in fact, I'll put a plug in for the Ape and Study group. We meet monthly. I'll put it in the chat when we meet um, each month. So we have like a flyer for it. Thanks for sharing, Paul. Do we have any other leadership or advocacy opportunities that you all have experienced because of OSEP?
I can speak for on that one. So Dr. Kirk currently teaches the Intro to Adaptive PE, but Lorraine and I were welcome to guest lecture and take the lead on the behavior management lecture and classes, which run concurrently with our swim engine program. So it's really cool that we got to create a lecture on behavior management and essentially teach the students on the behavioral strategies that they can use right off the bat with the students that are working in with the swim and gym. And that was really cool. It definitely got us out of my comfort zone, going from being a practitioner in the school setting to moving up in the ranks and standing in front of college students.
Right. Yeah, great experience. Thanks for sharing, Eddie. Last question now to the scholars, and then we're going to move on to kind of the second part where we have some questions for the project directors. So scholars, why should other individuals consider pursuing adapted PE under an OSEP grant?
I can share. Uh, it's a funny story. Uh, Dr. Bittner actually offered to, or he gave me offered to join the OSEP Scholar my first semester coming back from the graduate program, and I actually declined because I was working full time and I thought it would be a little bit too much on my workload. But I 100% regret not taking it the first semester, and I am really glad. And because I mean, yes, I do have to manage my time a little bit more because of the practicums and the extra duties that I have on top of teaching full time at a school district. But because of the opportunities, I was even more motivated to learn more about different disabilities, and because of these extra duties, like hosting the APENS study group, or hosting a podcast episode with Chris Aarons, and just being more motivated and learning that outside of my teaching that I do now, there are so many other different practitioners and professors and different people in the field that are doing a lot of cool stuff that I can apply to my teaching. So I would say to future graduate, credential, or doctoral students to definitely take on the challenge, as it is a little bit more of a challenge and it really does put you out of your comfort zone. But progress comes from discomfort. And as teachers, we should be in a growth mindset, and I'm really glad that I got the opportunity to grow as a person and as a teacher. And at the end of the day, I have a community of people that I can connect with, that I can talk APE, but also make genuine friendships. And I have the support of them around me as I venture in my teaching. So I would recommend and urge them And I would tell my past self to take on that challenge and the opportunity to get on the OSEP grant and to further your education.
Wow, well said, Paul. Love that. Kudos. Anyone want to follow that up?
Can I just offer a perspective from the scholars that I've had this cohort in my first cohort, the launch cohort? I think the common thread among all 9 scholars is just their genuine desire to improve the health and educational outcomes for our PK-12 students. And that's something that's just been so present from the beginning. And when reflecting back on the question previous about leadership and advocacy skills, what I've learned is that as they have acquired the knowledge and skills in some of these best practices and laws and coursework, their their desire to demonstrate leadership in the district is really emerging. I had one scholar volunteer themselves to present a workshop on UDL. I had another scholar who was in Detroit Public Schools who got to present on unified programming for Special Olympics. So I don't think without this opportunity, they would have sort of that confidence or competence to want to lead and want to feel like they're in a position of an opportunity to really educate and to improve our students' lives. So that's been sort of my common thread among all the scholars, and it's just super proud of them.
I love that. Leah, this kind of segues into some questions for the project directors. Excuse me. One being, what have been some positive outcomes or pleasant surprises of implementing the OSEP grant that you were not expecting? So, project directors, let's hear from you all now.
I would say that that whole leadership thing emphasized. It's a lot of fun. We have a master's program. Our scholars are master's level students, and it's so much fun when after a couple of years, some of our scholars go on for their doctoral study. That is a lot of fun to see. And then seeing them 4, 5, 6 years later as college and university faculty, that's a very, very fun and rewarding thing to see.
I love that. Especially we've got several doctoral OSEP scholars in the house. I I I definitely agree that through the OSEP grant, we have without a doubt taken our program, to the next level. That we've been able to implement more programming, provide more opportunities and experiences, conference travel, workshops, just things we, just wouldn't have had the opportunity to do for our students if we didn't have this grant. And this leadership, all these opportunities just really set themselves apart, on their resumes, their interviews when they, go to seek jobs. I mean, it's not a problem. It's not about getting a job. It's more so like, no, you are now on the stage to be a national leader in the field. Like, how can you nationally help out adapted PE? So, yeah.
I also think, um, there are several states that really need the state leadership also. And for me, it's very rewarding and exciting when I see our master's level people go out to different states and then become, the chairpersons of an adapted physical education state coalition, or they become, committee members within their state shape affiliate. There's a great deal of need at the state level for leadership of you adapted physical education folks. And so it's not only at the national level, there are so many states that need it at the state level also.
Yeah, we're all nodding our head yes. See if your state has a, APE leadership group. Like in California, it's the State Council for Adapted PE. Many states have them, some states don't. So if you were in one of those states where it's a bit of an APE desert, well, guess what? Like, this is your opportunity to wear that hat and maybe initiate a state group, and get the ball rolling because, right, it's got to start somewhere with somebody.
And don't be afraid to cross over and offer to do presentations or submit presentations to special education groups. Every state has a state affiliate of the national CEC, the Council for Exceptional Children. Every state has a school-based physical therapist group that has a state conference. Every state has special education director conferences and things like that. Sometimes I think we need to be going into those areas of special education, physical therapy, parent groups, even more than we need to go into our physical education groups where we're just oftentimes preaching to the choir. So cross over into those other groups, especially parents, special educators, related service folks like physical therapists and things like that. Don't assume that those persons know the law in relation to physical education. We tell our master's degree students that when you go out into a school district now, you're most likely going to be the leader in adapted physical education because of all the experiences and the information you've received. And so it's time to apply that and really advocate and lead.
Yeah,
Great.
can I jump in on that? I
Yeah,
think
sure,
one of
Ellie.
the big surprises for us is that, like Paul said, many of our scholars come out much more confident and willing to engage with the parents and advocate for the students they believe should be receiving adapted PE services. And I think it makes us really proud that they're willing now to use their voice to speak up for people who maybe they hadn't done before. But because of the program, they feel much more educated and confident and knowledgeable, so that they feel like, they can step out of their comfort zone and engage with different groups. And one of our scholars did present at a special education little seminar, so that was great too. So I think, yeah, the confidence thing and the being willing to advocate and step out a little more is one of the great outcomes.
That's
And
such a good
also,
point, Allie, that if we just present at adapted PE conferences, sometimes that's just preaching to the choir. These are people who've already drank the Kool-Aid. They know all the great things about, teaching, PE to individuals with disabilities, but we now need to share this message and all that we do with others. So, Garth, go ahead.
and understand, like Melissa said earlier, that you're going to run into those people who the general physical education teachers who've been in the field for 20, 25 years, and all of a sudden you're going to be, saying, "Hey, well, this is, what the law says." Same thing, believe it or not, with special education administrators, with school psychologists in the districts that you might end up in. They might have a completely wrong interpretation of what the law actually says. And so you're going to have to be professional, a little bit delicate sometimes about approaching some of those things. And don't hesitate to call Leah, to call Melissa, to call Allison, to call myself, to call other people and say, "Hey, I've got this situation. What would you suggest I do?" I get calls like that all the time. And it's good because they're thinking it through. They're saying, "Okay, I don't want to all of a sudden push this issue until I really know how I want to approach this, maybe gradually." But you're going to run into those situations where you're really the expert and you're educating people that 2 years ago you would have said, "Oh my goodness, how am I going to possibly, have that discussion?" But you do need to have it, but prepare for it and ask for some help.
Right. Think about it. How long do you think a school administrator talks about adapted PE in their coursework? Pro It might be a paragraph in a textbook, if it's even in, a special education textbook. So it's not happening very much. And so part of advocacy, you're right, is here, here's what we do and why. Here's the law. And not just a bunch of I think, I feel. No, here's what the law says about adapted PE.
And so, sometimes what I'll even say to our folks, in the Midwest here, have your special education director contact a special education director that has a good adapted physical education service delivery system. I tell them, sometimes those administrators like to talk to their own people. and get them in contact with others that have good adapted physical education services in their district. Let the special education administrators talk to each other, and sometimes they'll kind of go, "Oh, I didn't know that existed. I guess my adapted PE teacher, knows what she's talking about."
Great. Thank you all for sharing. Let's move to our next question about tips for writing and submitting OSEP grants. So let's hear it, project directors. What are some of your
Start
big
early.
tips? Love that one.
Yeah.
Concur.
I think starting early and sort of doing a backwards planning, like say, okay, this it's going to be due here, and then chunking time for each section. Like how if there's one particular section that's going to take longer, you budget 3 weeks for it. But my approach was to start early. I gave myself 8 months. And I did a little bit each day. It was a thing that I started my day with every single day. And I really felt like I stuck on track. I made little goals for myself. And I didn't feel really panicked at the end because it was sort of this gradual process.
And remember now, this discussion is for the people at the higher education level, for the PK-12 practitioners and experts in adapted PE. This isn't something, unfortunately, that's, the opportunities available for you, but the higher ed folks. And again, if the people in higher ed are interested, feel free to call me. This is a long discussion, and I've got many, many suggestions. But don't shy away from it. Don't shy away from it. We need many, many more people to be submitting, as everybody here knows.
Project directors, any other tips on writing an OSEP grant?
Be willing to ask for help when you need it or ask for advice. Like, don't hesitate. People are willing to help, um, give you a template or an outline, some key points, I think. Um, Ask for help. It's a big task, and there are a lot of people that are willing to help and support you. So I think and then this is just in general. Like I used to have a hard time asking for help, but ask for help.
Great tip.
And
Yes.
like I always told my scholars, when in doubt, follow the directions.
I think
Yeah.
the other thing that I really was aware of as I was sort of writing was the need for more state level data because you're writing, but then you're figuring out that data is not available that we need to demonstrate that need. So I think proactively maybe identifying how to get that needs data and soliciting some of that maybe in between applications or sort of preemptively before you start writing because I think the two it gets very tricky if you're writing and then figure out I don't have data that I need. Um, so I think staying on top of that and then maybe just being proactive about what your needs are.
Yeah, going off of what Lee is saying, for the people in higher education, you need to be establishing relationships with your State Department of Education, and especially the State Department of Education folks within the special education area and within the teacher licensure area, and people who are collecting supply and demand need in relation to teachers. And so, there's a list of things that I go over with the people that I'm working with on developing these grants. And one of them is you need to have a relationship with the State Department of Education. 2 weeks before the application is due is not the time to introduce yourself to the state director of special ed or the people at that level. And so, one of the things is develop those relationships. Develop relationships with your local special education directors within the PK-12 school districts. All of that should be just part of your, in my estimation, just part of your normal adapted physical education teacher preparation activities if you're a higher education faculty member. But it becomes even more important when you're writing an OSEP personnel development application.
Great points. Some additional notes that I had on this question. Read other grants that were accepted. You can actually request this through OSEP to get the top grants from the competition. So read them, see how they laid things out, how it was organized. consider becoming a reviewer, because that's definitely going to help you in your process. And then this is a call actually to doc students. One thing I realized pretty early when I was a doctoral student at Texas Women's University, I'm like, wow, these OSEP grants are a pretty big deal. I want one of these when I become, a faculty member in higher ed. And I did an independent study when I was a doctoral student, and I read, I don't know, 4 or 5 grants that were funded, and I interviewed program directors from like, you can start now, start early. Like, you on the OSEP grant, see how important it was for for your funding, for your advancement in academia. So when you land your job in higher ed, again, get settled, figure out where your office is, know what you're teaching in your classes, but then get the ball rolling, and you think about in the future applying for one of these at your school once you get your, programs all established.
And again, as Melissa says, and Leah has said, and Allison has said, you're going to hear different philosophies from different people as to when to enter this arena for federal grant, writing and grant seeking. So talk to several people. I have a different philosophy and idea than some other people, I think, maybe at an R1 university. I encourage people to maybe start thinking about writing federal grant proposals a little bit earlier than others. And so, talk to several people about the pros and cons and things like that. But overall, if you want to get into the game or you want to get into the action, like Melissa is saying and Leah is saying and Allison is talking about, you need to be serious about it. And it's a wonderful opportunity. We need more people doing it in the profession. And so consider it very strongly.
All right. Last question. What are some challenges that you've had with the OSEP grants?
I think recruiting is a constant challenge. Um, when new people get into the OSEP project directorship type thing, I tell them, you're like an athletic coach. You're recruiting 12 months of the year. I don't think people realize how much recruiting has to be done. Now, there are some programs where they do a lot of recruiting from their own undergraduate programs. And some of us are into now the transfer portal, where we generally get students from other universities. We rarely, even though we have a fantastic undergraduate adapted physical education program where there are undergraduates at the bachelor's level take 5 adapted PE courses. We rarely have those as our graduate level scholars. We would rather get people from external, and we do, but it takes a lot of time to do that recruiting. Very, very possible. You learn how to do it, but understand that the recruiting of students is going to be timely and sometimes frustrating.
Yeah. Garth, you bring up a great point. There's kind of a saying with grant writing, oh, it's hard to write. It's even harder now to implement it once you get it. I know for us, the paperwork, the behind the scenes paperwork that's involved, paperwork for the scholar financial aid, paperwork for fieldwork mentor payments, paperwork to get them textbooks and technology. There's paperwork for everything. And that's what is maybe always a challenge for us.
I think I've had, and I think both those are valid challenges. For me in Detroit, it's been getting access to high quality mentors that can go in real time and provide our teachers who are teaching APE really high quality instruction. My vision is that our scholars will become the next generation of mentors, but in this year one, it's become so evident. While I know of the APE teachers of the years for, the last decade, it's very tough to have access to them in real time. And I sort of have a different vision of how we're going to implement the mentorship, but that's certainly for me actually been probably the biggest challenge. It has not been in recruiting because the need is so significant in Detroit. But it's been that mentorship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good point.
Mhm. We're so lucky that, with Wisconsin having an add-on adaptive physical education teaching license for over 30 or 40 years, we're just so lucky that all of the districts have several adaptive physical education specialists. And within a radius of 15 to 20 miles, we have 5 school districts where we can actually kind of pick and choose who are going to be our best quality adapted PE mentors for our scholars during their clinical internships. So we're very lucky. And I can see if you're in an area where you don't have a lot of mentors, like in talking to Scott up in New Hampshire, with his new project, he has a hard time finding adapted physical education teachers to serve as mentors for his scholars. And so, yeah, some of us are, a little bit more lucky than others because we've got that foundation.
Yeah, I
All
would
right.
say for us, it's definitely the recruiting was a surprise at how difficult the recruiting is as a funded master's program. So sometimes I was telling just a colleague the other day, I feel like at some point like a salesperson, like or recruiter I like better, an athletic recruiter. But I do feel like a salesperson or a used car salesperson. I don't know, somewhere in between all of it.
Mhm.
And talking to people about that. And so adding that onto the paperwork, when you've got a small team and then other job responsibilities, I think just managing your time and figuring out what day is going to be your grant day to work on it, or what times of the year your off times, your grant time. Um, Figuring out that logistically has been a challenge.
Yeah, I'll go back to, and I couldn't agree more, Allison. I'll go back to that coaching analogy where most of our scholars are just out of their bachelor's physical education teacher prep program. And one of the things that I ended up doing was I had Zoom meetings with prospective students, and I invited those prospective scholars to have their parents on the meeting with me. I really wanted to talk to the parents so that they understood what the students were going to get into this master's program, this 1 year intensive program, the benefits of it, because oftentimes you have the parents saying, "Oh, get a job. You just got your degree, get a full-time job." And so I wanted to have that serious discussion. It also allowed me to really determine pretty quickly whether that prospective student was a serious candidate and was serious about joining us for a full-time master's degree. It was kind of a way for me to sort of weed out and filter out people that I thought were just kind of fishing. And then we also, as much as we can, have them come on campus for an interview. So in this whole big recruiting thing, you really do it 12 months a year, and you're like a coach. And especially now with the transfer portal.
All right. Well, we're right at time. Thank you. That was a fun conversation. Scholars, a big thank you to you for joining us, project directors. Thanks for joining, chatting about the OSEP grants. So good luck with the, spring semester here. And until next time, bye all. Thank you much.
Thank you, scholars. You're doing a fabulous job, scholars. All are
Keep it
doing
up.
fantastic. Keep it up.